teachers, what's the weirdest thing you've had to take away from a student? It was December or January and we were having one of those lockdowns where the police come in with dogs to sniff for drugs. We were all locked in our classrooms and no students were allowed out, even to visit the restroom. One of my students was white as a ghost. Very afraid. I asked him what's the matter. But it was obvious he was afraid he was about to get busted. He said, "Do you think the dogs will go to my locker?" I said, "I don't know. Do you have something to be worried about?" He said, "There's a ham and cheese sandwich in there." I scratched my head a bit. "I'm sure it's no problem to have a sandwich." He said, "Yeah. But it's been in there since September." Eyeballs. I worked with a blind student with autism. When he would get angry, he would pop out his glass eyeballs and throw them across the room. They were expensive. So mom asked that we put them in a plastic bag in his backpack if he threw them. No more eyeballs for you today. An entire menagerie of live insects. One afternoon my class decided that they should see how many bugs they could capture and keep alive in my classroom. The next day, I returned from covering lunch duty in another part of the school and noticed that one of the cubbies had paper towel taped over the front like a curtain. Before I could investigate, I noticed several Tupperware containers hiding in desks. Dozens of worms, that was the cubby, many assorted beetles, uncounted ants, 4 bees, a wasp, and most upsetting, several flies which were crazy glued to index cards and had their wings removed. That was a long day in a long year. Instant pudding. My student was mixing it in a large Cool Whip container, using milk from lunch, right in the middle of a lesson on Macbeth. This is my brother's story. And he was the kid. It was a sandwich bag full of spiders. He collected them during recess. And one of the monitors probably got freaked out. There was a boy in my 7th grade class that wasn't allowed to have coins because he'd eat them. A whole salami. Kid kept walking over to his backpack and sticking his face in to take secret bites without me noticing. I noticed. Christmas ornaments. They were throwing them at each other and it eventually caused a fight. Next to that would be a curtain rod. He found it and kept hitting people with it. First thing that came to mind, a drawing of a peanut. One kid said he had a peanut allergy. So a boy drew a peanut on a piece of paper and started shoving it in the other boy's face and being a general dick with it. Boom. Roasted. Handcuffs. From an 8-year-old girl. Not quite police grade, but more than just some adult fun cuffs. Sent that down to the counselor. A wine cooler that looked like a Capri Sun. This was a 2nd grader and she was just getting ready to drink it. Meanwhile mom is just sneak sipping on a Capri Sun at work when reality hits her. My sister's teacher had to call my dad about a suspicious powder my sister was eating out of a bag at school. She was dipping her finger in a bag of powdered jello and eating it and letting other kids do the same. In a somewhat similar vein, a dumb trend went around my school that consisted of kids violently snorting dib-dab powder, sherbet, then proceeding to scream in pain when they had a nosebleed and all pretend they were high. This was an all-girls school. Don't ever let the boys cool girls boring memes fool you. We also do dumb. Chef's knife stuffed in the waistband of his sweet pants, no underwear, during a snowstorm. A small trinket box, about palm-sized, decorated with gems and glitter, with a live mouse inside. The mouse was named Jimmy and had been caught in the child's house. A girl had about 50 plastic spoons in her pocket. She tripped and tea all fell out. A giant head of lettuce that just suddenly appeared on his desk. Where did he get it? Obligatory, not a teacher. I'm an EA, educational assistant, in a school. Plastic spoons. Hundreds of them. I still don't know why. But one grade 5 kid came to school with his backpack stuffed full. Nothing else was in his backpack. Not even his lunch. He hung it on the back of the chair and pulled out a spoon and was fiddling around with it instead of doing work. So I took the spoon away. 10 minutes later he has another one. I took that. 10 more minutes a third. The teacher took it away. 10 minutes later another. You can see the pattern here. I finally opened his backpack when I saw him grab the 6th or 7th spoon. And the bag was full. Obviously the teacher had to call home since he had no lunch. Mom comes. Looks at him with just resignation. And goes, "Why?" as she hands him his lunch. He shrugged, grinned, and walked back to class. Mom is clearly used to it and has learned to go with the flow. Not a teacher but a friend of a teacher. A letter to his other friend about how he once masturbated in class. Another student's tooth. That he had fished out of the trash can. That he was going to add to his tooth collection. Ziploc bags filled with water. That was a trend for a while at my school. Kids would claim they needed it in case they got thirsty. But usually would just try to pop them in each other's laps during class. A can of deodorant. You're probably thinking, "Oh, that's not that weird." Except that the two kids were using it by spraying it on the back of the other and then setting fire to the thing. In the middle of the class. An uncooked chicken breast. Actually, 2 uncooked, boneless chicken breasts. The student had one in each pocket. Dual wielding salmonella. A kid brought blue Gatorade in a Windex bottle to lunch on April Fool's Day and we had to take it so younger kids wouldn't think it was real. Thank you so much for the awards and upvotes. I never expected this. Not a teacher but in 3rd grade the teacher had to confiscate all the origami cranes in the room because one kid decided to make and sell them at $0.25 a piece. He got caught when he started selling on the playground. I thought it was up we had to give up all the paper cranes in our desks but we didn't get our quarters back. I named mine Swan and was very sad to see her go. This seems pretty harmless. I don't understand why people bother. It's just kid stuff. Also your crane's name made me chuckle. Not a teacher. But my 3rd grade teacher had to confiscate a dead rat from a kid in my class. Live rats are hard to catch. Dead rats not so much. Panties. They had fallen out of a girl's gym bag in the previous class. When I came in the room after standing duty in the hall, 3 boys were flinging them back and forth across the room. Never a dull moment. I'm not a teacher. But I taught my friend in 8th grade how to make pipe cleaner caterpillars. Since our school was discarding hundreds of bags of pipe cleaners, she found them all, put them in her backpack, and made these caterpillars. The only thing is, she made around 1,000 of them until our teacher realized. The teacher tossed them in the garbage. They just changed it. During my student teaching, I had to utter a sentence I never imagined. Which was, "Guys, what did I say about looking up satanic rituals during class?" They were a great group. Though. It was a group of 4 8th graders who said they had created an occult detective agency and were doing research just in case. My only complaint was that they were doing it in science class instead of actually doing their work. A can of Cheese Whiz. It was from a student visiting from another country. And she was enamored of the incredible canned cheese product she had discovered. So much so, she kept either opening her backpack to stare lovingly at it or taking it out during class to get some sweet cheesy goodness. It was pretty cute actually. And I made sure she got her cheese product returned to her at the end of class. Man, did she love Cheese Whiz. A plastic statue of the Virgin Mary with the face melted off. It was so bizarre. I kept it in my desk for many years. A homemade shiv. His dad has just gotten out of jail and given it to him. So he brought it to school. I teach kindergarten. BTW. That's less weird and more sad and messed up. This kid had a backpack full of baby rabbits. He found them in the field on the way to school. They were so tiny and vulnerable. We both cried. I did a brief stint as a supply teacher in my early 20s. One day I was at a school I'd never been to before and there was a group of lads gathered round a table at the back of the room, generally not paying much attention to the lesson. I went to investigate and found they were working on a full-blown diagram of how a male might go about sucking himself off. I confiscated it. For research purposes. I've told this story before on Reddit. But it really fits here. One of our 3rd grade teachers had a little boy come to her desk first thing in the morning with an object in his mouth that he was blowing on to make a noise. He said something like, "Look. MRS. Smith. I found this nice whistle in the wastebasket at home." MRS. Smith recognized the object as an applicator for a product used for vaginal yeast infections. The children went to gym class soon after morning announcements. And MRS. Smith noted that the object was left on his desk. She threw it away in the teacher's workroom. And called his mother to let her know for the future. So that she could take more care with her trash. Not a teacher but our vice principal had to confiscate a lobster from us after we bought it as a birthday gift for a friend. For those asking. It was a live lobster. We wrapped it in a box with some holes poked in it. When we presented it to him during first break. He just heard something scratching inside it and asked, "WTF is this?" Had to take a computer away from a kid because he had 2 Google tabs, search and images, open with the search naked nude Pokemon PRN in class. Taking a computer away isn't super weird, but that reason has stuck with me for a while. A real gun I thought was fake. Luckily unloaded. More scary than weird, but. Not a teacher but my brother was once asked to return his history teacher's beans. Which he had stolen from one of the drawers of said teacher's desk. My mother was a primary school teacher. One day many years ago she was working as a supply teacher filling in for an absent teacher. It was late 80s and Casio watches were all the rage. Every hour. On the hour. Many watches would sound a chime to signal the start of a new hour. My mother had been hearing chimes and alarms going off all day and she announced, "The next watch I hear beeping is coming home with me tonight." Moments later a watch chimed. It was my brother's. A picture they'd drawn of me in a teeny bikini. At the time I was a fairly out of shape man in my late 30s. Not a good look. The care they'd taken drawing a pair of gigantic pendulous breasts, which I don't have, was unsettling. The same student also wrote "Forkrin" in a bikini on a feedback form asking if there was anything they needed in class. Edit. 1. Obligatory thank you to everyone who stopped by to vote. Comment and award this. 2. The student was in 11th grade and is also a guy. 3. I genuinely thought I'd saved the pic, but after 2 moves of job, including a change of country, I can't find it. Not a teacher but my wife is. Several years ago she was teaching 2nd or 4th grade and the kids were instructed to have their snack time. She stepped over to the door to talk to another teacher while the kids ate and one student came over and tattled that another student had a snack he should not have. My wife scolded the tattler for tattling lol, but the kid was insistent. Wife decided to check and the other kid had legit cracked open a Bud Light Lime-A-Rita for snack time. Not me. But my co-teacher tells the story of having to take a vibrator away from a student during band class. The only reason he knew the kid had it was because the kid tried to play the xylophone with the thing. I've answered this question before, so I figured I'd just copy paste. Well, this is my own time to shine. My co-worker and I had a mild prank war going on. Somehow, the students caught wind and decided to instigate by stealing things from his room and taking it to mine and vice versa. Here are some of the things I've had to take from them and return to him. His car keys. His entire desktop computer. Portraits of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Pumpkins from his Halloween decorations. His desk chair. His car keys again. A student desk. His travel mug with his name on it. At this point I'm convinced my co-worker just doesn't want his car. And somehow, in the 5 minutes between his class and mine, they managed to flip all the desks in his classroom upside down. I'm not making this up. Not a teacher, but I had a kid in class that would collect used chewing gums from under the table and form them to a giant gross ball. During the lesson he would suck and chew on it and roll it all over the desk. My teacher had enough of it and threw the thing in the trash and the kid cried. After the lesson the kid got it out of the trash and chewed on it. Edit. Spelling 2. Edit. Thank you for the award, stranger. Excuse me, but WTF. Most people wouldn't believe me, as I'm Canadian. But I once found a working but unloaded AK-47 behind a dumpster while on my way to school. Carried it upside down to school. Gave it to the security guard, who was like, WTF. Police came a few hours later to ask me to show them where I found it. Turns out there was a gang murder there a few days ago and they were looking for the gun. Semicolon. Not quite taken from me by teacher, but still bizarrely brought unused AK-47 murder weapon to school. Well, like 10. Because why not? A doll's leg. Me. Why do you have a doll's leg? Student. Why wouldn't I have a doll's leg? Me. Dot. Okay, this is from my perspective as the student who got something taken away. In about grade 7 I slammed my finger in the garage door and it completely killed my fingernail. 1 week later I was sitting in class during a movie when my friend dared me to rip the nail right off. It was about halfway on only, so of course I did. It was a slow process and caught a few other classmates' attention. So from the teacher's perspective all she saw was some degenerates huddled in the back corner watching me play with something. So she gets up and walks over to my desk with her hand sticking out demanding whatever we were playing with. So of course I took that as the opportunity to yank my nail off and place it in her hand quickly before she saw what it was. She was not as impressed as my classmates. My first week of teaching 13 years ago I confiscated a note from a young lady, addressed to a boy in the class offering to blow him on the bus for $10. This was a 5th grade class. I teach in a rural school, and one year I had a very strange kid. He always had all these handmade contraptions that he'd pull out and mess with. One day he was messing with a ruler that had a plastic square attached to the top. It looked really sturdy. His waving it around was distracting me, so I took it away. He told me, "No, I need that. It's for kissing my sister." Tampons. From 6th grade boys. They like to unwrap, throw, and yell mouse. The girls were like, WTF. Then they found out what they were for in health class. They started adding ketchup. Had to institute a tampon check at the door. For the boys. The girls' room got a Bible full basket of tampons once they got over the idiocy. And that is the only time you will see the phrase, a Bible full basket of tampons, in the history of the written word. Not a teacher. But if you were to ask her, this would probably be it. Various vegetables. She was super strict about no phones and would check out the slightest sign you might have your phone. As half protest half prank we began our shenanigans. A girl's family member passed away and was texting on her phone about it to other family members. The teacher took her phone. So we began bringing in potatoes, celery, carrots, tomatoes, and other vegetables. We'd smuggle them into class and then hold them under our desks and look at them as though we were texting. She kept trying to catch us, but then just thought we were weird. This goes on for at least a week. Finally she instituted a zero tolerance policy against vegetables. So we switched to fruit. So for a few weeks she was constantly confiscating various fruits and vegetables. We finally stopped when it wasn't as fun anymore. And she wasn't never ever quite as strict about phones after that. Edit. Fixed double negative. I had to take away all the plastic forks at lunchtime until the 6th grade boys stopped shoving them down the butt cracks of their friends. Not a teacher. But when I was in high school I was responsible for many students having cans or bags of beans confiscated. Me and some friends created a holiday called Bean Day that was on the 10th of March. With the goal letting the students in on it and seeing if we could convince the teachers it was real. It consisted of throwing dried beans at each other and seeing who could bring in the largest can of beans. We'd all place the cans in front of us on our desks as a display of pride. Anyway, I got enough people doing it that the teachers said it was a distraction and started confiscating any Bean Day related paraphernalia. 27 bottles of Axe and cologne from a 5th grader's locker. One kid had a live snake in his desk. He grabbed it at recess apparently. This was an hour later. A cold baked potato. Not a teacher. On a kindergarten class. And lunch has just finished, so the kids are coming into the classroom and this boy walks in with the biggest grin on face holding a toilet paper dispenser from the bathroom. He was quite a small kid and he was clearly struggling to hold it. Where did you get this from? Him. It was on the ground. Female student. Miss. Every single sticker I had ever given him stuck on top of each other to form a ball. A gigantic plastic bowl with an entire box of Cheerios and 2 pints of milk in it. He thought he could somehow sneak this snack without anyone noticing. Not a teacher. One time this person brought a rubber chicken, the ones you can squeeze to make noise. Not that weird, right? It was 2 feet long and was attached to a chain. We had to do some group work thing, and he decided to use the chicken as a partner. Weird day. Teacher confiscated it and everyone was happy. Except the kid. Obviously. Invisible puppies. The theater teacher had his students pretend to take care of puppies in class. They brought them to mine and kept trying to train them in my class. One kid even asked to take theirs in a walk because he needed to get out. I told them the puppies had to stay outside the classroom, so I opened the door and told the puppies to stay. Not a teacher, but last year my sister, 10 years old then, came home from school and said one of her classmates brought a big kitchen knife to school to threaten another student with it. When I was in 5th grade, my teacher took an unused Kleenex away from me. To be fair, I was putting on a small one-man show to myself at my desk, where the Kleenex was a small ghost. Maybe I may have been being slightly distracting to my classmates. Although no one had complained when she walked up and snatched my ghost away. Little 1st grade Jerome walking down the hallway, pulling on a deflated balloon. Die to allergies. We can only have mylar balloons in school. Finally get close enough, not a latex balloon, but a latex condom. She is playing with a condom. She tells me she found it on her dad's pillows this morning. So I reroute her to the nurse's office so she can show MRS. So what a neat thing she found. No way was I going to touch it. Close bracket. Nurse tells me at the end of the day. Mom adamant denied she got it off dad's pillow, as we don't use those. Maybe you don't? Obligatory, not a teacher, but if my teacher saw this he'd surely be giving this as a response. I saw a meme online where somebody drained Windex out of the bottle and filled it with Gatorade. I decided to do this during class for a refreshing drink and my teacher was not happy with that decision. He already thought I was a bit slow, but I think that confirmed it for him. It wasn't quite taking away, because the kid came to me. But the most realistic BB gun I've ever seen. The kid came up to me before school started and was like, "Mr. Stonehad, I made a mistake. I accidentally brought my gun to school," and he sees my reaction. A toy is not real. He didn't get in trouble. He had divorced parents and was moving it from one house to the other over the weekend but forgot to take it out of his bag. I stopped him from taking it out on the yard and brought him to the office. It was completely metal. No plastic. No orange tip and heavy. I just stored it there until his mom could come pick it up. Luckily our school did not have a bull zero tolerance policy. And add on the fact that he came to me before school started and didn't try to hide it, and I made sure that he received no punishment. I did reinforce the necessity of being careful with such things, like if it happened where I went to middle school he would have been immediately suspended, but it was an honest mistake. A knife in a city high school. But my colleague who taught at the elementary school down the street found kids in her 1st grade with razors and dime bags. Not a teacher, But me and my friend were being stupid as in shopping for haunted bongs on eBay, and my teacher came, saw, and forgot how to talk for a couple seconds. Never laughed so hard in my life. Preface. I taught in an alternative education program for at-risk delinquent behaviorally challenged teenagers. I had a student who was a hunter. And he had a spray bottle of doe urine with him one day, cause the bucks all like that stuff and will come closer if they smell it so he can shoot them? Close bracket. In a hoe. He got mad at me for IDK. Not letting him play on his phone or something. And he immediately sprays me and my entire room in this stuff. Let me tell you. This stuff is rank. I had a harder time keeping the girls from tearing into him for making them smell awful than I did kicking his laughing ass to the principal's office. I'm not sure I've ever been as angry as when he returned from suspension, waving the same little bottle in my face.